Hi everyone, I'm Anthony O'Flynn. This is an energy update for the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere and the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. Summer solstice here in Queensland is this Saturday, 21st of December at 7:23 p.m. maximum solstice. And obviously this is the longest day of the year in the southern hemisphere and also marks the ingress of the sun into Capricorn. So we're going from the Jupiterian vibes, upbeat vibes of Sagittarius to the somber, serious vibes of Capricorn on Saturday. And obviously this marks one of the four cardinal points. Solstice basically means the sun to stand still or effectively look like it's standing still. It's a Latin term. And it marks one of the four cardinal points and is something of a hiatus. It is a very significant astrological configuration, a very auspicious moment, and it's a time to take pause as to what we've learnt and what we're actually hoping to experience and where we need to grow going into the next cycle. So it is an important astrological moment, and we will be running a free event on the Sunshine Coast summer solstice celebration this Saturday, 21st of December at 4 p.m. And the details will be in the description. Everyone's welcome. There's no charge, no donations, no money changing hands or anything like that. So check that out if that's something for you. It's part of the Awakening Circle series, which is a free series of events I've been running. And so basically this video is part 2 of the summer solstice energy update. So if you missed part 1, I really go into detail almost exclusively actually of the current UFO phenomenon. I won't be referring to it as drones. I feel this is part of the Orwellian indoctrination and doublespeak to classify all these objects as drones when they should be classified as UFOs because they are by definition unidentified. The various authorities in the US, whether it's the FBI, Homeland Security, the Pentagon, whoever you talk to, they haven't actually given any definition or clarity as to what's actually occurring, particularly over the states of Pennsylvania and New Jersey in the US and other states as well. And for that matter, all around the world, even in places like Germany and so on. I mean, even in Shinjuku, downtown Tokyo, this phenomenon is occurring so much that it's even shut down an Air Force base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the US, and yet the authorities don't seem to consider it to be a threat. I would have thought any incursion into US airspace and shutting down an Air Force base was a major significant event that needed radical and rapid attention, but for some reason the powers that be in the US are ignoring that, and for that reason what we're seeing is definitely part of some kind of operation. That's without question, that's obvious. The official response coming out of the mainstream media and all the authorities points to that without question, and to classify everything that's going over there as drones is just buying into the language that they want you to use because it's a familiar language, and there's a lot more to the story what's going on there, which I'll get into in this video. But before that, I want to actually backtrack to something I personally experienced in the spring here in Australia that is perhaps relevant for now. And that is basically over a period of days and weeks, I started to have a very strong intuition, something of inner guidance, definitely not something that you could call channeling or visions or something like that, that there would be a form of ET contact occurring in the medium to long term that would be something of a paradigm changing event on this planet that there would be no going back from. Now, I have no understanding at this point as to when that would occur. However, it felt to me that it would be likely be this decade, perhaps even in the next 2 to 3 years, and the probability of that being quite high, and then lower in the next decade, which is still in the window of how I was perceiving things at that moment, but it's not clear to me any real firmness of a date or something like this. So obviously this was prior to the events that we're seeing occurring all over the world now, and the obvious question is this what I was sensing was going to occur in the spring? I think it was very early spring actually, so it was a few months ago. At the moment, I'd have to say no, it's not, because my feeling about this event was much bigger than what's occurring now. So if what's occurring now does morph into a much more clear form of contact that is completely unquestionable and undeniable, then this is the event that I am referring to. And at this point, it's not, for a number of reasons, which I'll explain. But on that topic, which is I've spoken about previously, but which is always overlooked, is we often on this planet refer to disclosure or contact, various forms of contact, as being something that we only look at as half of the equation. That is basically our own integration into this phenomenon and our own raising our consciousness and our own ability to transform our place in the galaxy and so on. But what's always overlooked, or most of the time overlooked in this conversation, is the actual agenda of the ETs. And this means that the equation, if we only look at half of it, it's very, very misleading as to what can or will transpire. The other half of the equation is the relationship that we have in the galaxy, our responsibility as custodians of this planet, and the relationship that the ETs also have to this planet, as it's not separate from the rest of the galaxy, which we often overlook. And so what I'm referring to is the fact that this perception that I had was not contact in the way that most people discuss or have an understanding of this topic. That actually this form of contact was not even really something that the ET races had wanted to do, and that they basically had their hand forced in a very complex scenario, which I have no understanding of, and that this kind of idea of the various motivations of the ET races and so on is extremely complicated, that we can't really ever understand at this stage. But somehow that the malevolent ET races and their influence on this planet has come to a point now that there needs to be some kind of intervention. And so this process is not really, as I understand it tonight, a part of a contact that we would assume is the ETs wanting to integrate us into a greater understanding of the ET UFO phenomenon, but more a necessity to actually save the planet itself. Now, this means, as far as I believe and understand, that no ET race is coming here to save us. In fact, part of this forecast is an update on the external saviour myth dissipating over the course of this decade, and from this Solstice energy update, that they don't really want to actually interfere with our free will and so on. But the leadership of this planet is dominated by negative entities, negative forces from the satanic agenda, however you want to think of it, that is becoming now so extreme that we could experience some kind of catastrophe that is way beyond our control, setting off a chain of events, whether it's through the development of AI and having unintended consequences, through complete thermo-global nuclear war, through famine, through natural disasters, there's a whole range of the transhuman agenda, various methods of concentration of control in various ways using digital ID and digital currency and all these methods of suppressing free speech and so on, and way beyond that, that has reached almost a point where these events are coming to a head, and this needs some kind of intervention, and this could be the beginning of it. I'm not sure, and I won't speculate on that point, but I do want to include that in this video, and I have no way of knowing, sitting here now, whether that's actually related with what's occurring now. So it could be, but the main point I want to convey is that this second part of the equation is completely out of the control of humans. And so if this experience or this manifestation of these UFOs, these alleged drones that are occurring around the world, is it all human-made? That's really one of the questions we really need to think about. I don't believe that the human race is even close to being ready for contact. I think that the events of this decade and the pandemic show that most people are completely lacking any form of discernment, any form of critical thought, very poor self-awareness, and not having the evolution necessary to even come close to having any kind of face-to-face contact with superior advanced ETs, both technologically, spiritually, and their consciousness much higher than us. And I cannot see a world where that can occur, where all of the current humanity is integrated in only one 3D reality. If there is a greater split in consciousness and there is more of a fluid experience of humanity able to connect with high states of consciousness, with the astral realities, then I can see that that's possible. But as things are at the moment, I cannot possibly imagine how that is even in any timeline possible as things are now. And let's see how this plays out, because the way that the contact is starting to occur, if this is actually the beginning of this, then it makes sense that firstly they show themselves with the lights in the sky, and this phenomenon gradually becomes integrated, and then humanity can start to really change the mindset and the consciousness around this idea very concretely that we are not alone in the galaxy, which is just completely ridiculous to actually think that we are the highest form of consciousness in this universe. I mean, that's truly laughable. So then the contact would perhaps come more integrated over time, which could take decades, it could take hundreds of years. And the powers that be, obviously, to control the narrative, control this paradigm, would try to stall that, delay that, prevent that, and then creating this drone phenomenon, therefore it distorts it, it distracts it. And these are the classic tactics used by the three-letter agencies and so on, the powers that be, is basically distract, distort, mask, and obscure things, so that this would be basically diluting what is non-human intelligence or some other matter. I mean, these objects are doing all kinds of things that if that technology exists and is human-made, then there's a lot of questions to be asked as to what's really going on there, because that is plasma energy devices, propulsion systems that are superior to conventional aircraft, and objects that are even disappearing off camera, and even reports of objects going into the ocean and coming out of the ocean. It's not even clear which one of that it is, and a whole host of other phenomenon that would appear to be having extremely high technological capabilities that defy the current level of technology that the public is aware of in this paradigm, at least. And so there's a lot of questions there to be asked about. There's also a lot of speculation around various other issues with legislation and a whole other host of geopolitical issues and so on that could be the motivation for this. But it's becoming laughable with the authorities not really actually giving any detail or clarity around this phenomenon at all, which of course produces the ongoing effect at a global level, which is intensifying radically this decade, which is the distrust of the government and also flow-on effect distrust of the mainstream media, which is actually giving rise to huge attention, view counts, the viral growth in alternative media with people don't really have any other agenda except for disseminating the truth of wanting to know what the truth is around a whole range of esoteric topics, occult topics. Occult just means hidden, by the way. And of course, at the lower levels of this experience, the various geopolitical issues, social, political, economic issues, which are really not being covered by the mainstream media at all anymore. And this is only going to intensify going forward as the powers that be try to control the narrative. And really, it's quite amazing what's going on with this phenomenon and how the plan is to deal with it. Because obviously, if this is government-related organisations doing this, then they want the objects to be seen. They want the confusion to be seen. They want this lack of clarity to be known. They want speculation. And, you know, some people are even claiming it's just a complete data harvesting op to see how the public will respond in terms of gaining metrics to plan for some kind of genuine alien invasion psyop or whatever, for whatever purpose that is beyond the scope of this video, at least for tonight. So there's really a lot of muddying the waters. Some of the footage is difficult to confirm if it's valid, if it's fake, and this is all at least an effect that would be calculated in the parameters of what to be expected for doing something that has been going on now for approximately a month and is gaining intensification in terms of public interest around the world. And it is a big event. I mean, there have been big UFO sightings, such as the Phoenix Lights in 1997. This is a little different. It does look like a lot of the objects are man-made, human-made, but are all of them? And that's really the question. That's the question. If anything, everything can be defined as being a human-made invention or so on, then it wipes away the possibility that we are actually experiencing UFOs, genuine UFOs, ETs, in the skies around the world in various phenomena. I mean, it does raise a lot of other questions as well, because if the ETs want to reveal themselves, then why create this ambiguity at least? And this could be done from the skies in motherships. I mean, if motherships appeared above Tokyo, London, Beijing, Mexico City, Sunshine Coast, case closed. I mean, everyone would know that this is a phenomenon that can't be faked with holograms, with some kind of advanced digital technology, that this is actually a real phenomenon occurring. So there are not a lot of answers at this point, and this is part of the process that we will go through with this ongoing planetary paradigm shift. This could be looked back at as a key pivotal moment. Let's see what happens. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say on that. But this second part of the equation, what is the ET agenda? And this black and white thinking, as I've spoken about before, it's really useless on this topic, because when we would consider what is the ET agenda, we are thinking in terms of human motivation, human ego, human desires and goals, whereas the ET motivation can be something we can't even really understand. And also, is it good, is it bad, or is it something in the middle? Is it a very complicated agenda that they have? And then there's all the different races which have been spoken about over the years from different first-hand contactees and experiences and so on. They're all not going to be on the same page. And that's, again, just really something that we have to sit with and be at peace with the lack of understanding, the lack of detail that we have, so that we can't really have a lot of clear understanding of what's really occurring at this point. I think the beauty is in the mystery, though, it's at the same point. So this is really this process which will be unfolding going into 2025. I will be making a more general forecast for 2025 next year. I've explained 2023 was the year of the countermove, which is just unfolding more and more, expanding. 2024 was the year of convergence, with everything coming together, which really has becoming really clear, particularly with this whole UFO phenomenon at the end of 2025 will be something completely different, and I'll get to that in that forecast. So really, it's an exciting time to be here, because we are entering this Satya Yuga, this age of truth, Satya meaning truth. I'll be talking about the yugas more as well next year. There's so much misunderstanding on the yugas, the cycles of time, and what they will bring, and where we are in this transition. A lot of misunderstandings there. But basically expect more truth. Basically that we'll have more things being revealed, which is basically what apocalypse means, the lifting of the veil and so on. But one definition of apocalypse actually does mean disclosure itself. So let's see where that takes us, but you're going to start to see more and more truth coming out around the various cover-ups, abuse of office, abuse of power, all kinds of revelations coming forward, which will be truly unstoppable. This has already started, of course, with things such as the magic potion. This is like just an ongoing revelation. It's a bit like a time bomb with a very long fuse, and people are starting to come to terms with the fact that they've been lied to, they've been manipulated, they've been indoctrinated, and yeah, they are the victims of this whole thing. But I think the question for a lot of those people really is, what are you going to do about it now? Because in spite of all the deaths, turbo cancer, myocarditis, sterilization and so on, who's speaking out about that actually? And this is the real issue, is that even now that people have been basically conned, and yet they still don't have enough courage to come forward, and we're talking about millions of people, and speak their truth. And this is really unfortunate, because it means that it perpetuates this paradigm, which is unhelpful at this point. These sorts of things, like the revelations of the magic potion, that's this thing that everybody took a few years ago, or most people took. Other, things that psyops exposed, such as the Q phenomenon, the flat Earth phenomenon, that's been exposed. And hey, if it turns out the Earth is flat indeed, I will gladly apologise for my ignorance, but at this stage, I just see this as another psyop to create division in the awakening community, textbook divide and conquer tactic. The fake gurus, fake spiritual gurus, fake new age gurus, all these people that are basically con artists, fake channelers, fake healers, fake guru across the different traditions and so on, they are basically going to have a really hard time, as basically they are exposed and just revealed. That's part of this phenomenon. And also the whole external saviour myth, where someone's coming to save us, whether it's Donald Trump, the ETs themselves, or some political figure or something like that. This is not what the sort of Pluto and Aquarian energy brings. It's a decentralization of power. It's a connection to more bottom-up structures rather than top-down structures. That's the whole Capricornian way of doing things, which has failed in terms of serving us more and more. And that's the revelation of the complete decline of the institutions across the board, whether it's the financial system, the medical system, educational system, monetary system. It's all of those things that are basically failing and will intensify. This is like a crumbling of this Capricornian energy and giving rise to more Aquarian ways of doing things, which will become more apparent. So that's pretty much that's a big topic, but I'll leave that one for now. Obviously, this leads into more economic turmoil with the dying of the US dollar. This is not financial advice, but people will be looking more and more how to protect their purchasing power as this becomes obvious, and everyone will learn what the death of fiat currency looks like and the impact on purchasing power and protecting wealth, which is giving rise to cryptocurrencies, which of course have had a spectacular rise this year. A very interesting topic. Won't go into that any further tonight. It's getting a bit long, this video. More turmoil in, of course, the collective here in Australia. It's been a very interesting year actually for the Australian collective soul in terms of a realization that we are not the people that we thought we were in terms of the qualities in our character, in the national egregore, a growing realization that the government here has failed us, that our leaders, so-called leaders, have failed us, and also a rapid decline in the standard of living here. And all of that entails in terms of the housing crisis and our standard of living and our way of life, actually, which is all in rapid decline in various ways through various socioeconomic reasons. And this has actually been one of the biggest trends for the whole of 2024 here in Australia. I think this is going to radically accelerate next year. I mean, we're only at the beginning of the egregore of Australia starting to awaken to understand the reality of what we have created collectively here over the last sort of 30 years or so. It's quite a profound shift that's actually occurring here, but the turmoil is going to intensify radically. And this leads to the final topic, which I'll just speak about very quickly before I wrap this up, and that is the splitting consciousness in 2024 has accelerated a lot, and a lot more than actually I even feel that at least personally, I can see what's happened this year. There's no point resisting this or fighting this because people are all on their own journey here, and that doesn't make them wrong for not integrating the new energies and new consciousness. It's just not where they're at, and it's more important to honor their soul journey than to shame or ridicule them. And this will be a real point of growth for people that are going on the awakening journey. And it's sort of getting to the point for some of the people who are in this bifurcation of consciousness now that it's splitting of long-term friends going back decades, even family members and so on, and intimate partners, all of that, work colleagues, whatever. And it's just part of this process. It's part of this phenomenon. And it can cause quite a lot of suffering to people and so on, but there's really no point resisting it because it's only going to intensify and accelerate next year. And for this reason, it's important to find your tribe through this. It's going to be very difficult to try to integrate the values of the old paradigm going forward into 2025 and not really be confronted with the questions and the belief systems that are just basically fundamentally wrong. So this will be very difficult for the people who are choosing to really to cling cling on to this sinking ship, because it is sinking. This paradigm is failing. It is in terminal decline. It is designed. This is part of the cosmic plan. It's not supposed to remain this way forever. And we are at the end of this cycle. It's what we came here to experience. And so clinging on to these old values and so on, it's going to be very difficult. And really the key thing, at least in this point, to note is that we need to be mutable, to be adaptable, to be able to work through this and to change and to see if something's not working and then start something new, or even just pause for a moment in time. That could be weeks or months in terms of, work, life purpose, whatever, and then, reboot the system and see what comes then. And but it will be relationships that will be one of the big points of growth, and also will cause a lot of suffering, because a lot of the ways that we have been living have been outdated for decades. It can be argued even longer, and they are just not going to work for us anymore as a collective. And if people are choosing to resist that, that's okay. Resisting it is fine as well, but it's a reflection of an inability to evolve and grow and change, and it's unhelpful in the times that we're living in. That's a really big topic, and I won't unpack that anymore, but just file that one away for how that relates to you and your journey and what's coming next. So it's a very exciting time to be here. I'm actually surprised at the end of 2024 that things are actually still as stable as what they are in a lot of ways. So I think that 2024, depending where you are on the planet, of course, there's so much tension in the Middle East now. It's, it depends on your own personal experience, but even so, there are a lot of issues going on around the world for people that are causing a lot of pain and suffering. But even so, I'm actually a little bit surprised things are still holding together as well as what they are, considering the pressure that we are under as a species on this planet, with this incoming energy, with people starting to really awaken in many different ways. It's quite amazing to watch, and it's only going to intensify. So I wish everyone, the best in the holiday season, and Merry Christmas to everyone, and really enjoy the really beautiful things of Christmas, and remember the message of Jesus, because that is why, after all, we celebrate Christmas. And I'll be picking this up soon in another video. There's so many things to talk about. It's such a wonderful time to be here. Try to look at the positive things, the inspiring things. Do what inspires you, that nurtures your soul, whether it's a simple thing as gardening or reading or listening to music you inspire. It's really important to appreciate the simple things, and to have this state of joy as much as we can bring it forward in our day-to-day life. Thanks so much for watching. We live in epic times.